Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to make us an apple pie this morning as I'm drinking a nice warm cup of latte. First, of course, ingredient is in apple pie, and a good apple pie, are apples. And everybody has their own apples that I like. I personally love Honeycrisp apples. They're a great apple pie apple, or you can just eat them just eat them raw. They're fantastic. So that's where we're going to start today. We have our nice medium-sized Honeycrisp apples in our deep dish apple pie today. We'll need, I think we're going to need about 7 apples. So the first thing we're going to do is get started peeling apples. Okay, so we've got all of our apples peeled. And of course, the next step is to slice up these apples. We're going to quarter them and core them. Slice them up. Now I like to kind of slice them up. I like kind of half thin slices, and I mean fairly thin, an eighth inch or thinner. Okay, as it turns out, I think the 7 apples were probably just a little bit too many apples, so we're going to take this last quarter, slice a few, give a piece to Mr. Jack Franken, put it right there, give a piece to my apple-loving dog, Lucille, and give a piece for myself. Good. Okay, so now we're going to mix the dry ingredients for the apple mixture. So we're going to start, and for the apple mixture, we're going to use a little bit of flour, half cup of flour, half cup of sugar, about a tablespoon, or about a teaspoon, or a little bit better than a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and then just a touch of salt. So we will start with, you need to mix all your dry ingredients together rather than dumping them on the apple separately. So we'll go with, I don't need that. We'll go with about a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, about a teaspoon of good ground Saigon cinnamon, just a little bit of salt. Mix those dry ingredients up really well. Take our apples, kind of evenly toss it over the apples, and then just kind of mix it up in the apples.
Every apple doesn't necessarily have to be as perfectly coated as the next one.
Okay, so there's our apple mixture ready to go. Okay, now we're going to start on the pastry crust. I started on a pastry crust about 2 years ago. My sister-in-law, Mary Lou, taught me a way to make pastry pie crust dough that I had failed at miserably through the years. But now I'm getting it kind of down a little bit. Now's the perfect time to start the oven. We're going to go with an oven temperature of 375. And we'll wait for that. That will start heating up, and we'll start making our pastry. Okay, for pastry, we're going to make 2 pie shells, top and bottom. So we're going to need 2 2/3 cup of flour. We're going to need 1 tablespoon of salt. We'll do the salt this way. Measure that out. So 1 tablespoon of salt. Let me make sure I've got that right. No, I have that wrong. It's 1/2 tablespoon, or I'm doubling it, so it's 1 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon of salt, not 1 tablespoon. Good thing I checked on that. So we have 1 teaspoon of salt, and finally we need 1 full cup of Crisco shortening. The shortening is going to give us our fat that we need in this mix. And so when you get that done, you take your trusty pastry cutter and you cut all of those ingredients together. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we have that. Now, what we need to do is we have to have ice cold water. And we're going to need 7 to 8 cups of ice cold water that we incorporate into the pastry. We're going to do 2 tablespoons at a time. And you can see that the flour is kind of gone, and we've gotten more or less balls. We're going to try and make 2 equal ball-shaped pieces. Okay, so we're gonna wrap those together and put them in the refrigerator for about 5 minutes and let them chill down just a little bit. A few years ago, my sister-in-law Mary Lou taught me a few tricks in pastry making. One of them is to use a pastry pad. So I went out to Williams-Sonoma, bought me a fancy silicone pastry pad, and it's been just wonderful. I love it. So what we're going to try and do here is get a pastry that's like at the 14-inch round. It's not going to be perfectly round, but we'll do the best that we can. So we start spreading out just a little bit of flour. There, we'll pull one of our pastry balls from the refrigerator and start making our lower crust. Put that right there. A little bit more flour over the top of the ball. And what Mary Lou taught me was to use a piece of wax paper and roll on top of the wax paper, and that will completely prevent the pastry from sticking to your roller pin. And easily, gently take the paper off of the shell. And at this point, we need to kind of fix the fissure. So where it's too big, I'll just kind of cut that out and put that over a piece that had a fissure, something like that. And then we're going to take the paper back on it and kind of gently try to roll that into the shell and incorporate it. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now the shell's all ready to go. The oven is up to temperature. We're going to take and gently fold this in half. And if everything works out, it'll come off of the silicone okay. And then put it, and this is the most difficult part right here, put it in the pie pan without tearing it apart. Yeah, that wasn't too terribly bad. Okay, now we've got it in the pie pan, and actually it turned out pretty darn good. Kind of a repair a little bit around the edges and that bottom pie crust. At this point, we'll just kind of trim just a little bit of excess. Okay, we got our top crust made, ready to go on the pie. We're going to bring our first pie shell down, put our apples right in the middle of that. Alec, can you give me? Okay, with that, now we need to take about 2 tablespoons of butter, because everything's better with butter. And we're going to slice up some butter and just kind of sprinkle it. Slices. Now, don't ask me why we use butter, but it works and I'm going with it. Okay, so now we've got that done. The next step is to take our upper pie crust and put it over everything. Oh, that worked out pretty darn good. Now, I'm kind of a work in progress, but I enjoy doing it. So we'll kind of trim off some of the excess. So you take the top shell and kind of fold it underneath the bottom shell real quickly and do the best you can on that. It's not a perfect art, but that's the idea. And then when that is done, I just use my thumb and forefinger to develop a scalloped edge. My friend John loves apple pie, so I think when I get this all done, I am going to take a piece of apple pie to my friend, one more thing, to my friend John and Penny. We need to make a few slits in the top of the crust to allow air and steam to exit during the baking process. So we're just going to take a bit of sugar, and we're going to sprinkle just a little bit of sugar to add a nice little texture and color to the top of the pie. And then also, I'd like to add just a touch of cinnamon to give it kind of a nice little color. That's a little too much. Maybe a little bit more over here. There, that's good. Okay, it is going in the oven. I've got my oven set at 375. We're going to put it in. That will take 50 minutes to an hour to cook. And when it comes out of the oven, we'll take a look at it, see what it looks like. All right, it's ready. It's ready to pull out of the oven. Let's take a look at it. Hey! That's not too bad. Starting to get kind of golden around the edges. Looking really good. Pull it right out of the oven, put it over here on the cooktop where it can kind of cool down. Okay, pie's cooled, ready to cut. We're going to see how this turned out. I'm hopeful, very hopeful, that it turned out good. Okay, get a nice big slice of pie here. Wow, what do you think? What do you think there, Jack? Does that look okay?
That looks amazing.
Okay, we're going to take a piece. Well, that's the reason I like apple pie.